For me, family is a humongous anchor. I'm not going to give my whole story, but I grew up in foster care. I got adopted at a young age, or like 14 years old. And then I had this really interesting like base of not having my family. And so when I got older and I could have my family, it's been this anchorage like to me. And I always wanted to give my kids something better than I had. I didn't have mom in the household. I didn't have dad in the household. So for me, the fact that I get to wake up and my real kids are in my home it's seriously every day. I'm like, it's super cool. And so while it sounds odd, it's not. Like, just enjoy it. I'm just going to talk you guys through some points that I have found in my journey to be things that have helped me become a better parent. Now, I became a dad at 19 years old. My oldest son just turned 17. In fact, last Thursday got his letter back from the University of Oregon of acceptance. So the school that I went and played football at, my son now has an opportunity to go run track at, which is Tracktown USA. Hey, yo, super excited to get that one. He still has to get in for track, but academically he's sound. But man, I pretty much went from being like a high school kid to dad. Like I was telling somebody just yesterday, I'm like, man, I can't recall time without being a dad after high school. It's like I was a kid, I graduated high school, go to college. Oh, I'm a dad right now. And I've been a dad ever since. Now, here's the interesting thing. I've never not loved being a father. Now, I don't know if you have kids at all, or maybe you want to have kids. There's always been this anchor to me of like, I love being a dad. When I found out that I was going to be dad, I was standing in the locker room. My fiance at the time had called and said, hey, I'm late. I went to Planned Parenthood. We're pregnant. And from that moment, I was like, yeah, like I get to give back to a life in a way that wasn't given to me. Now, that being said, have I been a perfect parent? Absolutely not. I am sure I have jacked my kids up. I'm sure of it, because they're different humans with different ways to do things. But some of the things that I've learned through this journey of not just me navigating being a kid, having a kid, but also growing up and looking back and going, man, what would I have done different? What do I do now different than I did 5 years ago, 6 years ago? Because I also have 12-year-old twins that are same, I guess, kind of people, but vastly different. So I'm going to walk you through points I have today, and I'm going to share with you my perspectives. Now, that being said, I'm going to give you this kind of precursor. Some of the things I share are not going to sit perfectly, I'm sure, because we're all different. I do not believe there is a right or a wrong way to parent. I think that there are different ways to do different things. And I don't care what happens. You could be on your page a perfect parent, but because your kid is different, man, you may not fit with that kind of parenting style. What they need is a parenting style. So the idea is like, if you kind of listen to these things, you may hear some stuff that goes, it doesn't fit with me. And that's okay. I'm not going to go and put a torch in the ground and say, I'm sticking to this. You better do it. No, I'm just giving you some thoughts and ideas. So without further ado, let's pop into this. First things first, you do not want to slave away so your kids can have everything. Now, you can write these out if you want. You don't have to. Here's what I mean. I find that in my area, in most suburban areas, in most areas, people go, I got to work real hard. I'm a slave away so my kid can do whatever they want to do in life. And to an extent, I get this. You want to be able to fund your kids' dreams and create what you want to create for your kids. But I've found in my journey, in my life, that I've watched people, and I've watched multiple generations where that was the dad's mentality. I'm going to go to work. I'm going to slave away. I'm going to do my thing. I'm not going to chase my expressive dream. So I give my kids the hope and opportunity to go do more. Now, while you have the KDs of the world, right? The people who are like, my mom worked 2 jobs and went and played basketball professionally. Majority of people I've found do this. They go and watch mom and dad slave away, do their job, and they think that's the way to do it because they're mimicking what they've watched somebody do. They watch them have these jobs and fight and battle with money and all these kind of things. So what happens is they do what they've naturally seen. So what I found is in my journey, I said, you know what? I want to change that. I don't want to do something just to do it so my kids have money, so they can go to school, or they can eat, because I can find a way to feed them and take them to do what they want while also chasing a passion. So my kids go, holy crap, that's actually possible. Like my kids have watched me on national television climb a wall on American Ninja Warrior. That is not something every kid can say they saw, but I in my heart of hearts believe because of that, my kids see things as possible outside of the norm. That I believe is how you give your kids a different perspective. You're going to get them to do what they want by showing you doing what you want. So the idea is like, show them how to live with passion. Show them how to chase a dream. Don't be a detriment to their life. Don't push them away. We'll talk about that. But the idea is you have to live in a space beyond what your current comfortable space is if you want your kids to. So the best way to love them in a way, in my opinion, to go chase a big, huge dream is to go and chase a big, huge dream. Let them watch you stumble and fall. My kids have watched me stumble and fall and do dumb stuff. But they've also seen me be on stages and share and teach and talk. And when I'm in public, they go, man, like they see people walk up and go, hey, thanks for what you did. So that, I believe, puts a different seed in their heart. That's the first of many. Number 2, do not rob your kids of their hardships. Repeating this one because you need to hear it. Do not rob your kids of their hardships. My kid, Tiz, he's the oldest son. His name's Anthony. We have a nickname of Tiz. Not going to tell you why it's his nickname, but there was a time back in middle school when he was getting picked on after school. And so he calls my wife, like, there's this kid picking on me. My wife gets in a car, shoots down, doesn't tell me. And she's out there yelling at this kid. And I go, what happened? She goes, well, this kid was, picking on him. So I wasn't going to let him, do it to my son. Right. It's right. Mama bear. I totally get it. Totally get this. But here's what took place. She got down there. My kid never had the ability to manage this situation on his own. Now, I'm not saying that he should have been getting picked on, but I am saying I would have loved to have that conversation at home after the fact when that emotion sets into my son to talk about how do we navigate these moments, because that hardship was robbed from him. He didn't have the ability to build the muscle so that he could say the right thing, handle himself, avoid the situation properly because mom came and saved the day. Now, it's okay for you as a parent to save your kids. Totally get that. But there's got to be a line, a demarcation line where you go, you know what? I'm going to let my kids struggle, especially if you have the means to support your kids so they don't struggle with finances or food or a house to stay in, right? If you have the basics and foundation, well, how are they going to have the grit to get past the hard parts of life later on if they don't develop that now in your tutelage? So you can't rob your kids of these hardships they have. So I told my son, this is one you maybe agree with and don't. I am not a proponent of ever instigating a fight. My kids, I tell them, you do not ever put your hands on people in any way. However, if somebody puts their hands on you, you better defend yourself. You've got it, because if not, they'll do it again and again and again. So I said, if they touch you, physically touch you, you end it by taking care of this fight and the next 100 by going like a Tasmanian devil. You go crazy. I just don't hurt them and hit them, but you got to handle yourself. So a couple of days later, I'd had a conversation with my son about, look, if this kid gets in your face, just leave, man, walk away. But if he touches you, you've been doing jujitsu, man. Jujitsu his face, whatever. And so next thing I know, I get a call 2 days later. And my son got in trouble because he went to the office because this kid was pushing him around, physically pushing him. So next, this kid's in a neck hold on the ground. And the teacher comes, gets him off, and I go to the school. I say what took place. He told me what happened. I said, to understand it, I'll have a talk with my son. We had that talk at Baskin Robbins. Now, the reason we had it at Baskin Robbins, because I'm like, great, son. Now, guess what? That kid never bothered him again. In fact, the kid ended up becoming a buddy later on, weirdly, because, well, now this kid had some level of respect for my son. So the idea is you can't rob the kids of their hardship, because when they develop the skill sets to manage their life, now they get to this point of being the strong human being you want them to be. So don't take all the hardship away. Let them experience it and then help them understand how to navigate it better next time.
I'm going to give you a child psychiatrist's perspective on how to be a great parent. And, part of this talk I love because it's really about how to have influence. And in one of my books, I wrote a chapter on how to make your child a Republican, a Democrat, or anything you want based on these strategies I'm going to give you today. All right. So the pandemic has impacted mental health for everybody. We're all more anxious, depressed, stressed. Depression tripled since March of 2020. Substance abuse is up, suicide is rising, kids having more meltdowns, tantrums, and more struggles with school. COVID fires up the fear centers in the brain. For many people, their routines were completely upended. Sports were limited, although that's coming back. Loneliness activates the brain's pain centers. Think about that for a minute. That's sort of crazy when you think about it. Poor sleep, bad dreams. And one of the big problems, permissiveness has gone up, which increases behavior problems. But there are positives with this pandemic, no question about it. 8 out of 10 families are closer. we have had 3 generations now of 2-parent working families that has caused chronic stress, fatigue, and strain in the parent-child bond. And I don't know if you noticed it in your family. I certainly noticed it in mine, that families just had a heck of a lot more time together. Now, if you like each other, that's a good thing. If you don't, that was real trouble. But we have a historic opportunity to increase the parent-child bond by using the right strategies. And so I'm going to give you steps to improve your parenting skills. And these are the same steps that work for managers by and large. At work all the time, I talk about the 2 most important words in parenting that also fit with business: firm and kind. That when you manage, if you manage in a firm way, but with the right attitude, you increase the bond you have with your employees. And as I think of my relationship with Brendon through the years, Brendon is firm and kind. So, I guess my unique spin on the world is at Amen Clinics, we have the world's largest database of brain scans related to behavior. Probably in January or February, we're going to go over 200,000 scans on patients from 155 countries. And the imaging has taught us so much. But lesson number 1, you want to raise a healthy child, you have to optimize the physical functioning of their brain. And if you want to be a good parent, you have to work on your brain, because when your brain works right, things are better. It's obvious. Most people don't think about it, but it's obvious. Your brain is involved in everything you do. How you think, how you feel, how you act, how you get along with other people. Your brain is the organ of judgment, personality, intelligence, and every parenting decision you make. And when your brain works right, you're a better parent because you're more thoughtful, you have empathy, you're more consistent, you follow through on consequences. When your brain is troubled, for whatever reason, you're drinking too much, you're in a mold-filled home, you've had a brain injury from playing sports, you're not sleeping because you're under chronic stress or you have a medical issue, you have trouble in your life. So with a healthy brain, happier, healthier, wealthier, better decisions, better relationships, especially with your children. And when your brain is not healthy, you are sadder, sicker, poorer, less connected to the people you love. This slide just tells me so many important pieces of information about parenting. And nobody knows this, right? Because you go to a psychologist or a marriage and family counselor, and nobody's looking at the brain of your child, and nobody's looking at the brain of the parents. And so how do they know if the most important factor of parenting is trouble? They don't. So get your brain right, and parenting is easier. Get your children's brains healthy, and they tend to be more successful. They tend to be more compliant. They tend to be more effective. And, I've been doing this a very long time, and I'm always trying to make things super simple. Brain health is 3 things. It's brain envy, got to care about it. Avoid anything that hurts your brain, drugs, alcohol. From a child's perspective, Brendon and I were just talking about a son who had a concussion playing hockey. I don't think children should play contact sports. I know it's been going on for thousands of years, but nobody was looking at the brain thousands of years, over those thousands of years. As soon as I started looking at it, I realized mild traumatic brain injury is a major cause of anxiety, depression, suicide, aggression, ADHD. Brain is soft, about the consistency of soft butter. Your skull is really hard and has sharp bony ridges. Damage the brain, you damage everything in a person's life. So, got to care about it. Brain envy. Freud was wrong. He was about 2.5 feet too low in the body. So that's the first step. Got to care. Avoid anything that hurts your brain. Just have to know the list. And quite frankly, most second graders would get a 95 if I put on the board here things that are good for your brain versus bad for your brain. And then engage in regular brain healthy habits. So, do you think strawberry yogurt is good for the brain or bad for it? It's bad for it. Because red dye 40 in it. Or red vines, no. Or Fruit Loops, no. Lucky Charms, no. The food you feed children really matters to their cognitive, emotional, behavioral health. So, in my never-ending quest to make things as easy as possible, I think of, well, what's the tiny habit? What's the smallest thing you can do today to optimize the physical function of your brain and your child's brain? And that's, carry this question around with you everywhere you go. Post it on the refrigerator. Whenever you're going to go do something, eat something, drink something, ask yourself, is this good for my brain or bad for it? Is this good for my child's brain or bad for it?
Many of you know I'm not a parent, but before you log off, I'm the product of two parents. So I'm hoping to speak from another perspective that shares the biggest things I'm most grateful my parents did for me. Many of you know my parents are Nigerian American, so it's going to be a very animated call, so prepare for that. Number one, prioritizing education beyond the classroom. There's a quote that says, "Don't let school get in the way of your education." And I think that's so important. Many of you probably understand, and I mean, it's well known now that you don't have to go to college in order to be successful in this world. There are a lot of the most successful founders today are college dropouts, or they just avoided college altogether. I'm glad that my parents pushed education towards me. They wanted me to go to college. They wanted me to get that degree. But I love that learning wasn't just something that was done in school. Everything was always a moment to learn. And by prioritizing education as an adult now, I can see how that's translated. I am so eager to read books just to read, just to learn. Like my friends now who, like, again, nothing against clubs, going to clubs and bars, that's cool. I'm like, oh no, I just picked up a new book. I just went to the bookstore, I got a new book. I think I'm just gonna, like, Glo, are you okay? Like you seem, I'm like, I'm just hungry to learn. There's this beauty and this hunger that you can really instill in kids at a young age when you show them the power and the results of an education. So prioritizing education, it came before anything. It came before sports, it came before music, came before family gatherings. I might have resented it at the time, but it was the best thing that they did. Number two, enrolling me in arts and sports. My parents enrolled me in arts and sports as young as 7 years old. I played the alto saxophone, the trombone, and the piano. Now, I was that band geek. I literally remember I was like a chubby little kid, and I would have to walk with my big trombone in my hand, and my cheeks were really, I had like chipmunk cheeks because my baby fat and stuff. So I'm like, Mom, but I was an actual band geek. And what I loved about the arts section in music is that it taught me collaboration and discipline and teamwork. There's a quote that says, "Earth without art is just eh." Art is a powerful and beautiful thing. everything that you enroll your kids in doesn't have to translate into something that's going to have a financial success or some type of financial gain. Sometimes art is a beautiful thing to explore just for a child or a kid to explore what they love and to see them kind of entertain a skill set that they can carry with them through life. To this day, 25 years later, I still play the piano. And it has nothing to do with business. It is just the way I fill my spirit. Because as you know, you should be doing things that fill your mind, fill your spirit, and fill your body. So to fill my spirit, I play the piano. So I'm so thankful for the art section. Now, sports on the other side of that, maybe that feels a little masculine, but get this. I played basketball, softball, tennis, and golf. Basketball, I went all the way to semi-pro. I played in Spain overseas. Tennis, I went all the way to college with that. So I played collegiately, singles and doubles in college for tennis. And then golf and softball, I played until high school. Now, golf was almost a joke. So you can imagine if I'm playing 4 sports in a high school season, there is no time for me to look at boys. My mom was smart. She knew what she was doing. There was no time for me to flirt, no time for me to get in trouble, no time for me to be on the streets getting into mess that I'm not supposed to be getting into. So the sports not only, again, taught me the discipline and the teamwork and the collaboration, it kept me busy. So I really appreciate the sports side as well. Now, when I look back on some of my favorite memories as just playing team sports, because basketball was the one that I went the furthest in, you are going to have so much conflict playing a team sport. And you know the beautiful thing about that? Most of, I think, American culture, we're taught like conflict avoidance, not conflict management. So we go through our entire lives avoiding conflict, never having those hard discussions, never confronting people who you need to confront. And so a team, it's like you're on the court, you got 3 seconds left, you got to decide who's making the game-winning shot. Like you have got to talk about it. And then it doesn't go your way, you got to debunk it. You got to watch the tape afterwards. There's so much like conflict management and conflict resolution skills that I also learned with playing sports. So super grateful for that. Number 3 kind of goes along with number 1, entering us in reading and spelling bee competitions. I say us because I'm one of 6 kids. So my mom was kind of, if you've seen the movie King Richard, I think she also had a little bit of a strategy just to keep popping babies out until one of them is a superstar. It kind of works maybe. But what I loved about the reading competitions, again, it goes into learning. It made reading competitive for me. It made me develop drive. It helped me learn. I wasn't just reading to be smarter. I was reading to like win competitions. So again, I developed this very competitive spirit at a young age. And what do you need? What comes out of competition? When you're backed up against the wall and you're facing adversity, what do you lean on? Inner strength, your mind, willpower, discipline, focus, all of these things that I pulled out of sports and arts and reading competitions. I now inject that into everyday life as an adult, into my business, as a person trying to navigate this world, okay? So those reading competitions were huge. Number 4, teaching respect. Now, I can't remember which country in Asia this was, but there's this like rule where students and kids don't learn anything scholarly. They learn manners and respect for the first like 6 to 7 years of their life. I'm like, imagine a world where respect was like, that was the education for the first years of your life. How much kinder would this world be? And so again, Nigerian culture in the home, you do not dare pass my mother without saying good morning. Even sometimes I would just be running to the bathroom. I'm like, please don't see me. Please don't see me. And I'm just like, just want to go to the bathroom. I just don't feel like talking. It's 4 a.m. because my mom wakes up at like 4 to pray. If you're an African or you have African parents, you understand the prayer lines at 4 and 5 a.m. But Gloria, you can't say good morning. Why you're going to pass me without saying good morning? And I'm like, good morning, mother, good morning. And it became ingrained. Good afternoon, good evening. And now as an adult, I pass by strangers, I'll be in the elevator, I'll just randomly, oh, good morning, sir. Oh, thank you, thank you. And I just see how shocked people get that I greet them so politely. And I'm like, oh, I get it. It wasn't just about like you giving me a hard time at 4 a.m. It was teaching me how to navigate the world, to treat others with kindness and respect. If I can give my mom this same type of respect, how much better does it make me out in the world? Good morning, sir. Good evening. Good afternoon. How are you? Like, just, I don't have to think about that. It is so second nature because I've been doing it since probably, I don't know, 4, probably as soon as I was talking. I didn't say mama, dada. I said, good morning, good morning. It's probably my first words, okay? Another thing that we learned regarding respect was that only using your right hand, and again, this is very old school African tradition and custom, but like only giving, like if I wanted to give my dad a newspaper, I would hand in the newspaper, good morning, father, and I would hand in the newspaper. If it was in my left hand, he'll be like, try again. Oh, try again. And I'd be like, oh. And I would switch hands. And even something small like that, like there's nothing wrong with being left-handed. But when you train people at a young age to be very conscious about what they're doing, conscious about their movements, conscious about their actions, they think twice before they flip someone off because they got cut off while driving, okay? Like I'm very, very, very cautious and conscious about my actions because small things like that, using my right hand out of respect to hand people things, it just makes me think a level deeper. And that's super important.
This can be your day for personal growth. This can be that day you committed to and you remember and you go, that was the day I got myself a community. I got better coaches. I committed to making my life the absolute best that I could. This is that day. Make today your growth day. Click the button on this page and sign up right now.